On this episode of the Layover Live, Paul McLeod stops by to talk about AI. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 199 of the Layover Live. I'm Jason Swick, VP of Strategy and Insights, and thank you for tuning in once again to our show. We really appreciate you taking time to be here. Now, AI seems to be at the top of everyone's mind of late. I mean, Paul, you've been at conferences lately. We've talked a lot about this. It seems to be everywhere. It's on the news cycle. It seems like every article or every blog post I subscribe to. So I wanted to bring you in today to talk about that and welcome you to the show, because it seems like amongst marketers, there might be a little bit of a divide.
Yeah.
You know, some of us, I think it's going to take our jobs and do everything that we do today.
Mm-hmm.
Others think it's going to make us more efficient and productive and make us better at what we do. Truth probably lies somewhere in between, and we don't really know what's happening at this point in time. But I do want to talk about this with you a little bit, and even get into sharing some tools, which I'll do here in a second, because there's some cool practical uses. But before I get into that, Paul, maybe discussing with you a little bit, you know, how maybe AI could be used, maybe some uses that you're seeing, some specific use cases. What have you seen? Because I know you've been out a lot of conferences lately. I know you do a lot in the technical space. Maybe get into that a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think probably most people watching have learned about AI the same way a lot of us have when it sort of went viral.
Right.
Maybe 3 months ago, something like that. And all of a sudden, everybody I knew was either, talking about it or sending me TikToks about it. So since then, one of the first things I did was I logged into it and I was like, what is one of the things, I write a fair bit in different ways, and actually started out my career as a web copywriter. And I was like, well, what is the type of writing I least like to do? And it's pretty much, just generic marketing copy that you put on a web page. This is just like, you've done it a million times. You have to change just the few specifics, and there's nothing very sort of interesting or creative about it, at least for me. So I went in and asked ChatGPT to give me I spent 30 seconds coming with a prompt saying give me 2 paragraphs of marketing copy for the top of a web page about attractions in Tucson. Use the exact phrase "things to do in Tucson" liberally, or something like that. And it immediately gave me 2 paragraphs of basically publishable content. I could just put at the top of Tucson's things to do page, and it would be pretty much just like what you would get from a professional writer. I immediately went and posted that in the group chat, the digital marketing group chat here at SimpleView. That was just obvious. So not only did I do that immediately in the group chat, the next 2 conferences I went to, I saw 2 or 3 people do a demo of the exact same thing on stage in their slides. So that's the first obvious thing that comes to mind, I think, to a lot of digital marketers. Just generating marketing copy. You could write emails, email marketing copy just as well. You could write, like I said, basic flavor text like that super well. Those are the most obvious ones. Once you want to get into something a little bit more creative, like a blog post or something like that, it'll probably actually do a pretty good job. But to be really interesting, you're going to have to add a little bit of a human touch still at this point. But anyway, that's just just generating text that is nice to read as a human, maybe not brilliant, but good enough is the most obvious thing that I think a lot of people have looked at.
Totally right, because I think and I think that's probably the most practical use, because it's the one that probably touches us most every day. Is around messaging and emailing, right? And I think that's a great place to start. I know it's funny you said about writing stuff about Tucson. I think one of the first times I logged into ChatGPT, was curious and had to write a blog post of top restaurants downtown Tucson, and it was pretty good, right?
Yeah,
it's kind of scary.
Real restaurants that you knew about.
It did, and it was okay, this is pretty good. So if anything, I think it's a good tool to help. Listen, it's not going to replace a content writer in full today.
No.
But what it's going to do is allow that content writer, in my opinion, to be a little bit more efficient and effective, and maybe just gets the thought started with oh, that's a good way to word this or put this. So I think if anything, it maybe helps you get to the end a little bit faster and focus on things from a productivity standpoint. So
no, I couldn't agree more. And I've even said to people, I don't actually hire content writers these days. But if I did, I would absolutely ask anyone that I was interviewing, do you use ChatGPT or one of these other AI tools to do your stuff? And if they said no, I would say A, I don't believe you, and B, if you are telling the truth, why not? Because honestly, I think if you're you can't actually. The tool doesn't sit there and do anything for you without you actually having to prompt it and telling it what you want.
For sure.
It has no desires and doesn't know what kind of content needs to be out there. So there's a role for the human right there and just directing it to do stuff. B, Yeah, as a content writer, you can just get the bulk of like getting the ideas out there done, like you just said. And now, if you use it right, and I think within 3 years, any professional sort of content writer like that is going to be probably using this tool as a daily part of their workflow. It's going to allow you to just get started that much faster, get past that like blank page feeling where you're staring at the screen and there's just nothing written and you don't even know what to do. I mean, it'll give you an outline. You could probably learn to converse with it to get, just sort of prompts to break you out of a writer's block situation,
And that's the beauty of it. Yeah, it's like having that person like writing shotgun with you to assist with that when you get stuck someplace, right? Which I think is tremendously helpful. I can think of it lots of other uses in daily life too, as we start to think about writing emails. Like I even use some to like craft up some general response emails. Like you, I probably get hit up with 10 to 20 different vendors at any given time, like trying to sell me something. So I just have these autoresponders that I can send out that are just written.
You are so much nicer than I am.
How about? Yeah. Maybe so, right? I'm trying to do it the right way, right? But you can't get back to everybody. It's equivalent today of them knocking on your door, your house, or direct calling you. Like it's just a way to send it out nicely and say, this is not going to work today. But I like that. But it kind of brings up the idea of like, okay, we talk about naturally ChatGPT, right? I know version 4 just came out. Google's got Bard coming out, doing all their other stuff. So that's an easy one, right? But I want to get into maybe some other tools that you've seen in this space, because this conversation is coming up more and more as I'm on client meetings and stuff. Is like, hey, what other tools are people using and seeing out there? Is there any tools that outside of ChatGPT that are coming to mind for you that maybe just stick out, whether you use them or not? But there's some. Yeah. It maybe gets people thinking about how these things can be used in the future.
So I need to get into this hard in the next couple weeks. I've just started messing around with it. But there are a lot of tools. What people have done, ChatGPT is now available as an API for developers. So a lot of these tools are going to be based on ChatGPT, or people, if they haven't already, they're going to be other large language learning models, as they're called, I think, out there available commercially soon.
Yeah, LLMs, right? Yeah. The new. We love acronyms, man. So let's just keep with that. Right?
Yeah, they should call them llamas or something like that.
Right. Someone will.
Anyway, a lot of these tools that you use might just be sort of like a layer of a new interface that relies on ChatGPT or something very similar to it. But there was one I was messing around with called Copy.ai. They've got a bunch of different sort of purpose-built tools. Like I was looking at one for meta descriptions. So you describe the product, you give it you might even give it a page title, and they'll write a meta description that conforms to SEO best practices for length and keyword usage and call to action and stuff like that. So that's that's a perfect use for it. I could imagine even a smoother, better interface for it. That's the thing that I think will be interesting. We're so new to this. We're like 3 months into people knowing about this tool. I think the workflow tools around it will evolve a lot over the next year or two as people say, okay, so, I could go into ChatGPT and get it to spit out almost anything I want to it, but just having a thing where it's just a point and a click, maybe I can upload a spreadsheet full of URLs and it'll just do it for me. It'll give me a meta title, meta description, OG title, do your open graph stuff, all that, and just fill it all out for you. Pretty soon, I bet if you're on a WordPress site, there will be AI tools that are like built into just sort of generate it and publish it straight to your WordPress site for you, so you don't have to copy and paste from one to the other. That's kind of things. You asked about tools that actually exist. Those are things that I'm imagining will exist. The point is, right now, they're sort of getting there. Copy.ai is one I tried. For sure. There was another one, Phrase.ai, I saw. I don't know. Have you seen any of that?
Yeah, I have seen a few, right? And let me just even expand on your point first before jumping into some tools that I'm talking about. So. I think it's a matter of time before our own CRM and our own CMS will incorporate AI in some way, shape, or form. Right? It'll take time. We like to let the kinks kind of work out of the environment a little bit first, but naturally building something into CMS to assist with copywriting or CRM with like grabbing context or
lead
data
scoring,
lead scoring, awesome. Things like that. Like that'll come, and there's more to come in that space. So I think it's a very cool idea, certainly there. And listen, let's not also pretend like AI hasn't been around for a while too. It's been around for a long while. We use it in Google Ads for a long time and other places for a long time. It's just now it's like hockey sticking up in terms of functionality because it's starting with things that we use every day, things like messaging, text. We use those things every day, so you're seeing this huge takeoff. And now when you expose it to the masses like that, ideas start to come about. You also start to see more input into the machine, which then spits out better results. So crazy stuff there. So I was talking a little bit on the tool side earlier when we were talking about writing those emails for sales responses. I use a program called ChatGPT Writer for that. Okay. And it integrates with Gmail. It's really cool. You just click it, pop it open. You can put a couple things in there, dump it off into there. It works really, really well. So that's one I've actually used a little bit, and it works pretty well. Just connects to your ChatGPT account. That works awesome. Another one I've seen from my meeting sales folks side of the house that I think is very beneficial is one called Taplio. And what that does is like a lead generation tool for meeting sales where you can go into LinkedIn, set up chat across DMs. So maybe you're trying to reach meeting planners, you're trying to get out in front of those folks and really start to like build a conversation, or maybe push content, or maybe blog posts or tools and toolkits that maybe you have for your destination, and you want to push that out to a meeting planners group. Taplio would be a great way to start that lead generation process on the meeting sales side. And then some that I've gotten pitched back at me are things like Parmonic, which is where you can take like long form video, webinars or whatnot, and cut that into short form content that you could use on TikTok or Reels or Stories. So it takes long video and cuts it up into small segments.
Can we use that to do the social media posts?
That could be a way to do it, right? I mean, it might really help. Maybe it does, and we'll talk to Jeremy, our boy, and see if we can get that done. But that seems like a real practical use for DMOs because they do so much with video. It's so labor intensive and heavy.
Oh, yeah.
If you can have a way to cut it up. And then lastly, we have all been on Zoom calls, Google Meet calls, it seems like for the better part of almost 3 years now. You know, one thing you get on there is like you hear good things, you write down notes about the session, or maybe you want to circle back to it later and maybe get some information about it, or maybe someone's talking about something on the Zoom call that's really important, you want it transcribed. You know, Otter.ai is a great way to like transcribe your Zoom meetings or your Google Meets, so that if you want to be able to have that and send it off to a client when you're done, or maybe you want to send it off, maybe you're a DMO and you're having like a board meeting or whatnot, you want something to be transcribed and sent out as notes, whatever it may be, there's tons of practical uses for that. It also has a search option, so if I need to go back and look at something from 6 months ago, I was sitting in this meeting and it was really good, it has some functionality. So those are ones that, Paul, that just stuck out to me because they're practical uses. It's a writer, something that helps on the meeting sales side, cutting up video, and certainly run enough meetings to be able to have that transcribed for us. I think is important. So yeah, good tools on that side.
Yeah, and I think again, you make the point with all those tools. Like even think about the video editing one that turns your long form into short ones. Like, you know, there's probably some people out there who are video editors who, like you said, with the writers earlier, hear that and they were like maybe a little threatened by it. But I think about the people we know at DMOs who have like, you know, I know people who are marketing managers and are also in charge of being basically their CRM admins. And they're running website, they're running email, and they're running social media things, and it's like all one person doing what in our company are like 6 different jobs.
Right.
You know, all of those people, there are a ton of them. They, even if they had the budget to find help, it's hard to hire good people in their area who can do it.
Sure.
And so I think these AI tools are just going to be a blessing for these kinds of people. We're all going to be able to do a lot more stuff more easily and just cut out some of the more rote tasks. And those people who, even those people whose job is in theory being replaced by it, are really going to be made more productive by it, I think, by and large.
Yeah, I think spot on. I think, you know, it's a really good point, Paul, because DMOs have been resource starved. I mean, the travel industry was probably the hardest punched during the pandemic with resources, people leaving the industry and whatnot, and then that forces the folks that are still there to have to do more with less. And budgets are under more scrutiny than ever before. So being able to leverage it for more productivity or just make your day a little bit easier, boy, what a great tool for that. And that's kind of what AI is really meant for. It's to make your life a lot easier, right? So absolutely, man. So let's talk about wrapping up, Paul, a little bit. Let's talk about maybe like what's coming down the road. You know, what's the trajectory of things you're seeing? You know, how could things change? For example, we talked about roles a little bit. It feels like things are going to accelerate faster now, I think, a little bit than maybe they have with AI in the past. You know, what's the shape of where things are going? What do you think on that side? Wrapping up.
Yeah, I think to me, if you want to think like sort of long term, I think what we're getting, or big picture, what we're getting to is closer to that sort of sci-fi situation we've all had.
Skynet?
Yeah, not that.
Okay, good.
Not that. Because thankfully the AI, I don't think that ChatGPT represents a big development in computers wanting to kill us. I don't think that's...
I hope not. If I see a liquid metal version of you walk in the office, I'm in trouble. Right.
That's already what you get. No, I think they want to kill us about as much as they did before, which is they don't.
Okay.
But we're getting more towards that sci-fi vision of being able to just talk to your computer and have it understand what you want and not and just give it back to you. Like I think of it as Star Trek, where it's like, computer, plot a course for whatever. And you just say it in a normal sentence the way you would to another person.
Yeah.
And that's what this really is. This is a big advance towards that. It's going to end up being a user interface advancement more than anything else is what I think of it as. It's a new way to get the computer to find the information or do the basic tasks that you want to do. Instead of typing text into boxes and pointing and clicking at buttons and stuff like that, you're getting to where you're just able to express a thought or a desire, and the computer is able to figure out what that is and then do it for you. And that's awesome. Right now we type into ChatGPT. You could very easily start doing that with your voice now, and pretty soon that's just going to be how you do it. In a lot of cases, your phone will have an AI app on it, and it'll just be like, hey, you can already kind of do this with Siri. It's just going to be better and more fluid and more, everybody always complains about Siri not understanding them now. This is going to be a way better way of getting Siri to understand you.
Yes. This is like the better version of Siri.
Yeah.
On
in a lot of ways.
This is Siri that's been in the gym for a little bit, right? So good points, Paul. Thanks for sharing some of those tools. I wanted to bring you in. There's certainly going to be more on this, right? As things start to progress and things start to change, whether you're going to be coming to Summit, just a reminder, we've got our Layover Live 200th session that's going to be there. Paul will be on the panel with us over there too, so be on the lookout for that. That'll be on Tuesday at lunch. But so that's my shameless plug, as you know. But AI is certainly going to play a big part as we start to progress things. I am absolutely certain as we attend sessions and conferences and speaking engagements throughout the rest of the year, it's going to become more and more and more part of the chat and what's happening, so to speak. Just like data was a few years ago. You went kind of from one session at a conference maybe talking about data to like where every session is. And I think you're going to start to see that evolution on AI as well. So Paul, thanks for coming in and can share your insights. It's really appreciated, man.
Cool, no problem. Thanks for having me.
And thanks for tuning in each and every week. If you're not subscribed, please do so now. We're also available on Spotify and iTunes. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.